You know, it's quite weird. I said that back in January, and I got called all sorts, got so much abuse, so many problems, and people was telling me I was wrong, I was an idiot, blah blah blah. And we're in August now, and I look at Twitter every day, and it's people saying the same thing: the board shot delay ruins the game, blah blah blah. But Paul was wrong, wasn't he? Yeah, Paul just toxic, wrong, don't like it. Yeah, nice one. Well, maybe I wasn't wrong, maybe I was right. But anyway, I've wanted to make this video for about a week ish, but I've been so busy with work I've just not got round to it. But on August 2nd, I put up a tweet, and it was just some ideas of what I thought would be good for Gears 6's tuning. Not in the sense of feedback anymore, like I'm done trying to help that lot, they couldn't do it themselves, but I just enjoy discussing the game and the way it runs, and I post this for the sake of discussion. Like, I don't care what the developers do, they can go and ruin the game if they want to, they've already done a grand job of that, why not carry on the way they're going? But this is for people who like to talk about it and just actually understand what they're talking about. I put up what I think will be good, and Hindian, Captain Ginyu. You may remember we used to have problems back in the day, but we've sorted that now, and we're cool. So he's made a video giving his thoughts back to what I've typed, and this isn't like a reaction video. This is me trying to explain in a bit of detail why I typed the things I did with the ideas and the view I have. So I want to go through the points I made. I'm going to leave out the visual audio because I think that's kind of like obvious why I've put that, but I'm going to talk about the movement and tuning points that I made, and also the map style and cover. I will put his video in the description if you want to go and watch his full breakdown of what I've typed, but this is my expansion, shall we say, on why I typed what I did. In the past, I probably would have typed a really long forum thread that most people probably wouldn't have looked at anyway. So it's probably good that I can't do that anymore because people can actually see and hear what I'm typing and saying. So thank you for banning me. People actually pay attention to me now. You've done me a massive favour there. Thank you. So the first one is my first point. So let's get straight into it. Slide cancel shot delay 0.150 seconds to 0, completely gone. I say this for multiple reasons. It was added to stop the airbag A. That was its only intention. All these people coming up with other theories, you're making those theories up. I know the actual answer. It was to mitigate the airbag A. That was its only function. It was a known risk. That risk has not paid off. It has backfired. Therefore, it should be reverted. Now, I see so many people happy because it's like pretty much annihilated wall bouncing just because they don't like it. Be happy about it, but that's not the reason it was there. So you go and have a discussion with a wall or an apple if that's what you want to do, but I'm not having a ridiculous conversation with you if that's where your mindset's at, because you're not going to listen to what I say anyway. But I'll show now a small clip. I'm going to have to remove audio because I had music on at the time, but it's a small clip that happened yesterday when I was playing with a friend. He didn't try to airbag A. He did one single bounce, tried to fire, his gun locked up, and he died because of it. That should not happen. It's ridiculous. So it has broken so many aspects of Nasher play that if you do anything other than walk at somebody, you're going to die. You cannot fire. You have no choice but to just walk at them. So I want to see the slide cancel shot delay completely removed, because I do not think that is the answer to stop the airbag A. I believe there's something else that can be done for that, which it is already in the game, but I'll come back to later. We do not need slide cancel shot delay to stop the airbag A, and the slide cancel shot delay does nothing other than stop pretty much all other forms of Nasher battle. This next one, it's a really minuscule change. I don't even know how impactful it would be. I'm just more curious, if I'm being completely honest. The aim out of cover delay, it used to be 0.1 seconds. That was then doubled to 0.2 seconds. I would like to see a very, very slight reduction in that down to 0.175 seconds. Again, purely just for the sake of seeing if it has any impact. For one, I do kind of miss slap shots. They seem, well, you can still do them. I'm not going to say you can't, but it seems less intuitive to do it because it takes a little bit longer to do now. But I more want to see this because all I see now from players is what I call wall sniffing, or some people call it secret manning, or essentially standing behind a wall, abusing the third, what's it called? The third person camera. They will stand looking at the wall, not in cover, waiting to just sidestep out and shoot you, because when you're like that, you're technically not in cover. Technically, you are strafing, so you have 0 shot delay on that. As soon as you pull the trigger, your bullet will come out. So you find a lot of people now abusing walls like that. They used to, don't get me wrong, it's always been a thing, but I find that a lot of people now do that. And in my mind, one of the main reasons they may potentially be doing that is because there's 0 delay on that. So I was thinking maybe if we reduce slightly the delay for aiming out of cover and firing, then maybe, potentially, I don't know, maybe people will start using cover again and not standing there licking it. So maybe that could be tried. Alright, so before I fully go into this next point, I just kind of want to explain the direction I'm coming at this from. Players now complain about literally anything that isn't a bot walk Nasher kill, and I just cannot get my head around it. But they're complaining that there's now a meta in the game where all people do is up A and back A. And it's like these people cannot comprehend how that has come about. That has come about because these people have done nothing but complain about other parts of the game. And those other parts of the game have now been massively nerfed and made useless or pretty much impossible because of their complaining, which has now created a meta of the two only things left that actually work in the damn game, and they can't get their heads around it. But I don't see what's so complicated about that. Up A's and back A's, they are pretty much all you see in Gears 5 now. Why is that? Because that's the only thing that still works. Reaction shots. Think back to Gears 3. You could do a full 360-degree reaction shot without really thinking about it if you were good at it. Now, you can still get a full 360-degree camera spin. I'm not saying you can't. But if you go past a certain angle, your Nasher will lock up. It will not fire. There's no point doing it. Reaction shots now are practically pointless. So that's something that's completely gone. And that could have been somebody going out wide to reaction shot you down. Or that could have been just a regular wrap shot. It could have been someone turns around and then spins around and shoots you out the back. That's a completely... I'm saying valid because I personally think it is valid. Like, people have got their own wants for realism in Gears of War, which baffles me. But for me, I see no issue in a reaction shot that can come out your back. People could have took so many different angles and approaches towards a fight when reaction shots weren't broken. And when I say weren't broken, I'm thinking all the way back to Gears 3 because they've been crap in Gears 4 and 5. But back in Gears 3, there was so much variety in Nasher battles because there was no delays. Reaction shots worked. It just worked. There was no restrictions. If you wanted to go and do something, it would work for you. If you wanted to approach a fight in your own way that made it unique for you, you could go and do it. The game did not say, no, he doesn't like that over there, so you're not allowed to do that, sorry. The game wasn't like that. You could do what you wanted. So there was no meta. The meta, in quotations, was people would wall bounce and Nasher. It's like, yeah, well done. There's a hell of a lot to that. And there's so much variety. I think I was good at my movement back in the day, back on Gears 3. And recently I watched a 1v1. I won't name them, but it's one of like the best, in my opinion, one of the best movement players ever to have been on Gears 3. And he made me look awful. Why is that? Because he's put so much extra time practicing in. He's better at it than me. And the game let him be better than me. The game let him look better than me, because that's how it should be. The better player should look better. The better player should have the advantage. But no. Players now, if it's not bot walking, standing on walls, quote, tactical, which it isn't tactical, it's absolutely pathetic, get a grip. If it's not that, then they don't like it, so they want to see it out of the game. And what do they use as an excuse? Quote, it's not readable. Well, it is readable if you're paying attention to what the other player's doing. If you can't see them running across the map or bouncing across the map towards you, and if you choose to stand in a corner like a complete idiot, what do you think's going to happen? Do you think they're just going to stand next to you and just, like, I don't know, lay out a picnic and have a wonderful evening? No, they're probably going to shoot you. So maybe you should prepare either you shooting them or move out the way. You know, common sense. And the other one, realism. I don't know how to break this to you, but you're playing a video game set on a different planet, a different universe, where humans are fighting monsters that have come out of the ground. And these humans, they are wearing full armour, they're holding 3 weapons, they are able to perfectly roll backwards down a flight of stairs without snapping the neck, stand up perfectly. They are able to do all these superhuman things, but you draw the line wall bouncing because you just don't like it, so you think it looks silly and it's not realistic. That is the most pathetic thing I've ever heard. It's a game. And if it makes the game enjoyable, then keep it in. Because that way, the more variety that's actually in the game, the less chance you've got of getting a meta, and the less chance you're going to have of not liking that meta. So what do we do now? Are you trying to get up A's completely made pointless? You're trying to get wrap shots made pointless? You're trying to get back A's made pointless completely? Just so of your standing behind walls plodding about completely bored meta. And then what would happen? You'd get bored of that. You'd get so fed up of people doing that to you, complaining about that. And then what? What's left? There's pretty much nothing left. All that is left now is your options are walk at them, stand on a wall and hope they run past you, stand on a wall and back A them, or stand on a wall and A them. There's nothing left. Because you cannot bounce at somebody because you have to stop to fire. There is nothing left. And there's nothing left because all you've done is moan about dumb shit that did not need breaking, and now we're left with this crap. So when I say that all these things are going to kill the game, I say it because it's taken the fun out of the game for pretty much everyone who used to enjoy doing that. And now there's nothing left for them. There's no enjoyment left for them. So they're going to go and do something else. So whilst you might be wanting to move towards a super realism simulator on a different universe with monsters in it, whilst you might want to move towards that, there's going to be no one left. The closer you get towards your bot walking dream, no one else is going to want to play that with you. So have fun playing against bots. It's the most brain dead argument I can even imagine. But that's explaining where I'm coming at with this. So the next point I've got is add a slight bloom on the back A. I don't want it. I would much rather the back A stays as it is. But I do now see that it is one of the only viable things left, and it does happen a lot. So I was thinking, if there's a slight bloom on the back A, maybe it'll make it less meta. I don't want it to happen. I do not want to see bloom on the back A, but they're meta now. And the thing is, everything else has been broken so drastically, we're just going to get meta after meta. The more you nerf, the more you're going to find a new meta, because that'll be the only viable thing left. So yeah, I written add slight bloom to the back A, but I don't want it. Sorry about the audio skips in that last bit. I'm not sure what was causing that, but I've reset the computer and I'll carry on. Hopefully that stops. I know I could re-record that, but to be honest, I don't like to fake what I'm saying. I like to just say what I think, and I think what I said in the last clip, that's kind of how I feel about the matter. So I'm keeping that in, and hopefully you can decipher what the mic decided it didn't want to include. So the next one, I'm going to include both of them into one point. It is increase slide speed from 600 to 615, and at the same time, and it's important that at the same time, it's the acceleration. Currently, it's at 300, increasing at 2,000 per second. I'd like to see that tested at 450 at 2,250 per second. Now, let me explain. I really like fast slide speed. And just in case you don't understand how it works, I'll give a really brief explanation of how it goes. The game runs on the Unreal Engine. Distance is measured in Unreal Units, or UU. Therefore, speed is UU per second. The slide speed in Gears 4 was 690 UU per second. Gears 5 released at 630 UU per second. That was then increased to 650 UU per second. Now, when we were looking at changes, we, as a community, that is, when I say we, I mean as a community, we were feeling that the game was too fast. And it was weird because I knew that technically it was slower than the old games, and I could never understand why. So when I was giving feedback, I was saying I'd like to see the game slower. And that's not because I don't want to have fast slides. I do enjoy fast movement. I really enjoy fast movement, but something about it, the character felt way too light. It was always like you press A and you ice skate towards a wall. I didn't like how light the character felt. I then learned about acceleration being present in older games and not in the new one, Gears 5. And I didn't know about that at the time. So I was like, okay, that sounds like it. We need that. Simultaneously, we got a massive drop from 650 UU to 600 UU. And I'll be honest, I liked that. I'm not saying I don't like fast movement, but I also did like 600 UU. It felt nice. And then we also got the acceleration change starting at 300 UU per second, and you accelerate at a rate of 2,000 UU per second until you reach the cap of 600 UU per second. That, it gives you the feeling of sort of bogging down and then going. So imagine a weird a weird way of looking at it, but imagine a car. Imagine you are at a dead standstill and you wheel spin your back wheels. You sort of bog the back of the car down. Then when it bites, it goes. That's kind of how the acceleration feels with this. It's kind of like you bog down and then you get your speed and you go. Whereas in the past, it felt like you instantly were just gone. You were just instant. So yeah, I'd be really interested to see what the community thought about just testing a slight change like this. Like, it wouldn't be anything dramatic. You wouldn't feel some sort of huge change that you've got to relearn the game to. But I think, how do I word this? I think it'd feel nicer in your hands to control the character like that. After reading what people have been saying, people are saying it's too slow. I really don't think it is. I think what people are doing, I think people are getting mixed up with what I used to get mixed up with. And I feel like people are feeling that they're getting bogged down too much with the slide acceleration. So I've said here a slight change to the maximum top speed, 600 to 615. I don't think that would be massively noticeable, but I do think you'd feel it going just that little bit faster, because obviously it is faster, you'd feel it just be that little bit faster. It might feel that little bit better for those who do want a faster paced game. But I do believe that most people say the game's too slow now because of the acceleration. And whilst I do like it as it is, I really do like it as it is, I think people overall would potentially be a bit happier if you don't bog down as much when you press A. So currently, you're starting at 300 and accelerating at 2000 until you hit 600. I would like to see you start at 450 and accelerate at 2,250 per second until you hit 615. And I just think that would feel a bit less of a bog down, and I think people would then feel like it's not, quote, as slow. I think it's something to potentially test. I know, like, when I say about giving feedback, I do say that it's on behalf of like myself and other people. I hope this shows that, because I personally don't think this needs a change, but I do think if a change was to be made, then this would be a consideration, because I don't think it would be anything too drastic, but I think it would be something that makes the overall experience feel nicer for those that do feel that a change is needed. So potentially, I think that could be a good thing to consider. I completely forgot to mention in that the slide acceleration was added alongside the shot delay. Now, earlier in the video, I said about how I didn't think shot delay was the answer for the Airback A. I believe the answer for the Airback A is the acceleration, which we already have in the game. We did not need two answers for one question, especially when that one question wasn't even a big question to start with. I don't think the Airback A was ever a true issue, but I can see why it could get irritated if people spammed it. But it only ever, and it's a literal comment, I cannot possibly be wrong with this because of how it works, it only ever got you if you were camping corners. Other than that, the Airback A couldn't even be used anywhere else. So if you were consistently dying to an Airback A, it's because you are consistently camping corners. Camping is always frowned upon in games. So why should you be assisted and rewarded for wanting to do something that's frowned upon all the time? Get off that corner and or shoot back. Stop trying to have the game limited. Shot delay isn't needed. We have acceleration in the game, which makes the initial slide of the opponent much more readable as they're coming towards you. That is the adjustment that we needed. That is the adjustment that we now have in the game. Shot delay on top does not need to be there. I just wanted to add that in because I did forget. This next one, I have to credit Gears 5 for the change it's made. If you think back to the aim assists at launch, compared to where we're at now with them, it's took a massive step in the right direction, and I cannot praise it enough for that. Very well done, genuinely fantastic. I cannot get my head around why the game was launched in that state, but I have to credit the changes made to it. It's brilliant. We've had adhesion completely removed from versus, and we've had magnetism massively reduced, and that's fantastic. A look to the future, if it's anywhere left in the game, get rid of it. There is no logic in my mind for helping somebody aim in a shooting game. It's daft. If it exists, get rid of it. That's all there is to say on that. So I'm not going to go into great description with that. Okay, so as I said, I'm making this video because Hindian gave his thoughts on what I said. I'm going to add in... I didn't want to make the whole video like replying to every one of his points because I don't know, I think that's not really... I don't think that's what he was after, but this is something through the Lancer where I think he's maybe missing my point. So I want to include what he said, and I want to add on my thoughts. So this is what Hindian thinks about my Lancer comments. So we'll just let us play through and we'll go through that.
Utilize legacy reticle style to add extra bloom to Lancer whilst remaining clear, full auto. Now, I appreciate you saying that, because I can remember a time where you didn't really have too much a problem with the Lancer, honestly, Paul. And going back to a forum post, before we were both fucking given the 1,000-year fuck you, there was, I believe, I don't know if you actually participated in this post. I would actually like to hear what you had to say, because it was very contentious, and I brought to the attention of the company and the community that the Lancer was able to down 4 people with 1 clip. And so many people were not willing to believe this, and I told people, if you really need footage, go and figure it out yourself with bots. I don't know what to tell you, but that's a real thing. And eventually somebody did it, proved that I was correct, and the conversation exploded into, now that you can't tell me it's wrong, since it is real, you have to quantify that by the amount of players that are on the battlefield and understand what that means, where when 1 clip of the Lancer can down 4 people, it's 3 to 4, but you can get 4. And you had, at the time, 5 players on the battlefield, 40 rounds in the clip. How the fuck are you supposed to play the game like that? Why are you going to go get any of the other weapons on the map when you have the best weapon in the game? The Lancer, the easy mode, the sit back and support. But it's not really support. It's just milking eliminations. Gentle level about, would you like to see the Lancer clip reduced to 20 rounds in the clip, 120 in reserve, or 25 in the clip, 100 in reserve, and see if that changes player behavior. See if we're able to get away from this weird bitch boy meta that doesn't allow any type of organic play to happen. You're already limited as an individual in this manufactured experience where there's only a 2-shot down, and now we're talking about making the Nasher even weaker, but giving it a better gib range. And I don't get that at all. Why not just keep the gib range short, have the 1-shot down outside of the gib range to where it normally would extend, and make it a skill shot? Make the active only significant for that 1-shot down potential. Make it a very specific skill shot. Make it where all of the pellets have to hit the head from that specific range. Why is that such a big deal? I don't know. It just, there's no way for you to enjoy the rotations the way you used to because of just Lancer. So absolutely, let's get some bloom in there. And I don't know, just needs some more changes, because he even talks about reducing the Lancer rate of fire by 0.250, and I agree. There needs to be some changes, and why not bring back the respect for the Lancer? Why not make it that it's valuable to have somebody on the team who can hit downs with a 20 clip? You know what I mean? Now he's talking about the Nasher next. Increase Nasher rate of fire by approximately 0.040 to 0.50 between shots. I understand why you're saying this, and it's because there's times where you don't feel like your gun is shooting as fast as the other players. It's a weird thing that you get ready to pull up and you fired, but it just doesn't happen.
Okay, so I did cut up your reply a little bit there because I do want people to go to your full video and watch all that rather than me just putting it all in mine. You did make some very good points, and if I'm honest, I think some of it's potentially misunderstood because there was a point where you and I didn't talk and didn't exactly see eye to eye. So I think there's a lot of feedback I've given in the past whereby you may not have seen what my true goal was. I have never liked Lancering, though there was a point where I did feel like it was in a much better spot. However, I have said all along that I do really like the dev playlists that these tuners were tested, and I understand why they were tested in a dev playlist like that. But I've also said all along that once it gets into ranked, people will find a way to abuse it, and it'll never be the same. So when I've said yes, it's good, that's based on how it is in a dev playlist. Um, yeah, I did. I'll be honest. I did think it was much better when it got the massive nerf. I'm saying massive nerf. It wasn't a massive nerf. It was 5 damage nerf, which required 1 extra bullet, but it felt like a lot, you know. Um, I'm fortunate, like, to be able to answer you here because if you look at my channel now, there's probably like no feedback on it at all. So you can't really see what I used to say back when we weren't talking, but I still have that on my channel. It's just unlisted. I unlisted all that when I knew that my feedback was being used. Um, but I was then being treated like shit. I was like, you know what? If you're gonna treat me like shit, you're not having my ideas. That's been unlisted, but I still have access to it. So I've got a few things here that I want to show you. Like that I've said way in the past. Like we're probably looking at a year or so ago, maybe more. So to go back to the points that I had, I've said utilize legacy reticle style to add extra bloom to Lancer whilst remaining clear, full auto. I say this because I still feel that at range it's a bit too easy, or not easy, it's a bit too effective, not easy. And I feel like adding a bit of bloom will mean that someone going at full auto will have to calm down a little bit if they want to control it. But I also feel like the reticle that the Gears 5 Lancer has now is too unclear and would not be fair on somebody who's trying to full auto it at range. I think that the older reticle, the style that we had all the way up through Gears till 4, I think that that's big enough and clear enough to the point that if someone was to go full auto, they can see roughly where their bullet to go, and it's not really unclear until you're doing it. You can get some sort of idea before you go full auto. Then you go full auto, it's like, right, okay, the bullet's going to land somewhere within that little square there, rather than just an expanding crosshair that it's like, well, what's that? That doesn't indicate anything. Do the bullets come out in like a cross now, do they? No. So I think if they were to adjust the reticle for the Lancer, that could be made much clearer if they were to increase the bloom. I do think the Lancer needs a little bit more bloom. Not loads, but just a slight increase, because at range it's too effective. I said about the fire rate of the Lancer, and I'm going to show you something. I want to preface it with something first. I feel like the Lancer has been an issue for Gears 4 and 5. We've been told all along that it's the same damage as it used to be back on Gears 3. And that's the argument people hold on to. And you know what? It is true. Per bullet, it's the same damage. In fact, I think it's weaker now. I'm pretty sure it got nerfed. I can't remember the values. I was going back so long. I'm pretty sure it's got nerfed until maybe 5 to 10 damage. But there's something no one ever talks about. I think I'm the only person that's ever mentioned it. If I'm wrong, then I apologise to whoever has. But I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who's ever mentioned this. The rate of fire of the Lancer. Let's have a look. Let's have a look and we'll come back to it. So, at launch, the damage was the same between Gears 4 and Gears 5. Per bullet, the Lancer did the same damage. And we can see there, the rate of fire was the exact same between Gears 4 and 5. So why are people complaining about the Lancer in Gears 5 so much? Well, the answer to that is people complain about the Lancer in Gears 4 as well, but nothing was done about it. So the question there is, if we're being told that the damage is the same between Gears 3 to Gears 4 and 5, which is true, it was the same before Gears 5 got the nerf, then why is it such an issue now? Well, the answer is because this is what no one ever told you. And big thanks to Control Height Wall for testing this for me, because I don't have an Xbox 360 anymore, or an Xbox in general. But he tested this for me, and watch this. This is what no one talks about. No one will tell you this part. They'll just say the damage is the same. Look at this. I think we should have a look at that again. Does no one find it weird that the two games that the Lance has been such an issue on are the two games where the rate of fire has been increased by about half a second throughout the magazine? Why does no one mention that? Why does no one talk about that? Why was that kept from us? Why was that not a talking point? Because it's so obviously the issue. Yes, it's true the damage is the same. It completely is true. But the damage per second is not the same, because you could deal more damage faster due to a higher rate of fire. So I'm not asking for it to be, quote, nerfed. I'm asking for it to be put back to how it should have remained back when it wasn't a problem. This is why the Lancer is an issue. So I want to look at something that Hindian said. And the thing is, you've got to look at the Lancer in two different ways. One is using it correctly as a support weapon. And two, it's using it to camp and pin someone down. Now, it's hard to tune it when it's got two ways of being used. And its intended role is still so annoying. So I'll go with the long range pinning down first. That's where the rate of fire is annoying, because you can deal extra damage faster than you should be able to. I think that reining back the rate of fire will make it more bearable. Also, to answer his question, I don't remember seeing that forum thread that you're talking about, but personally, I don't think that the Lancer clip size is the issue. And yes, you are 100% correct as to how many people you can kill with one clip. You are right. But I do believe that's been possible on all games. Mathematically, I believe that's been possible the whole time. So yeah, you're right, but I don't think that's what you need to look at. Clip size, fine. I think reserve ammo, that's what needs to be looked at, and you're right for that, because the weapon should be useful, and I don't want to get to the point where it's not. But I think the issue with that weapon is the camping, and if you reduce the reserve ammo, that will discourage camping, because you cannot do it as effectively because you'll run out of ammo sooner. Yes is my answer to that. I didn't see your post or the post you're talking about, but yes, absolutely, that could be a great change. The other thing you got to look at is kind of moving into my next part now with a Nasher, because you talked about that as well. The Nasher, as it stands, can near as damn it do a full down in one shot from so far away. That is why I would be happy to see a massive reduction in how effective the Nasher is at range, because the Lancer feels powerful because it can put a couple shots into you and a Nasher can come along and down you. And technically that is its role, that is a support weapon, and that's how it should be. At that point, the Lancer is the weapon that's being annoying because it's peppering you all the time. But it's the Nasher that's doing that bulk of damage and downing you. And the Nasher should be doing that, but the problem is it can do it from too far away. That's why I think that the damage needs to be reined in. Now, in the past, you and I have had massive disagreements on this, and I stand by the fact that in the past when we talked about it, I don't think it would have been good for the game. But now, given what we've got, I I do think that rather than seeing all the 95 through to 99% in one hit, I do think if a Nasher is doing 96, 97, 98, 99 in one hit, I think instead of doing that, it should instead do the one shot down for that. So that way, it would completely eliminate that frustration because you'd be getting a down that you can finish off. Um, I just think it's a good way of having the in between. Like, it's either a kill or not a kill. I think it'd be good in between. It's either a kill, a down, or not a kill. And I think that would be really. I don't know what word to use. I think that would be less annoying for a player who has been like a step or two outside of gib range. I think that could be a good middle ground. Um, Next, I want to look at what you said about the rate of fire of the Nasher. I said that. I understand the reason you thought I said it, but that's not quite what I mean because based on what you said, let's say they were to speed it up in the way I said. Yes, that'd speed my Nasher up, but that would also speed their Nasher up, so they could still theoretically shoot before I can, and theoretically we could have that same frustration. That's not what I mean. Um, I'll show another video clip now, well, in a minute, that I recorded ages ago, back when there was only 6 shots in the Nasher. I again compared Gears 4 to Gears 5 as I did with the Lancers, and you can clearly see that Gears 4 used to fire the Nasher faster than Gears 5. I held down the trigger to do this because that's the way to get the fastest fire rate out of it. I'm not saying anyone would ever use a Nasher in this way, but I'm trying to show the rate of fire has been slowed down for Gears 5. So yeah, I tested that ages ago back when there was just 6 shots in the Nasher on Gears 5. Um, it's a weird one to explain. It's such a small difference that between shots, it's such a small amount of time that it doesn't sound like it should be causing a problem, but I feel like it is, and it's not for the reason you thought I meant. But in my opinion, I feel like it's more. Let's say you're in a 2v1 situation, you get the first one, and you have to sort of like recock your gun never feels ready to shoot the second one again. It just feels like it takes that little bit too long. And if you've been playing Gears for years, which we have, it just feels like it's sluggish and not ready when it should be ready. And it's just that tiny little bit of time which makes it feel like this isn't going to work out. Because instinctively, when you've been playing Gears for like what, a decade, when you pull a trigger, you kind of, the timing's down. Like, I'm sure by now you can active reload your gun without looking at the slider. It's all timings, and when that timing's put off just a fraction, it feels wrong. And I want to see the rate of fire increased again back to how it used to be, which is only a small amount of time, or just closer to how it used to be. So it feels like if you are in a 1v2 situation, you've got more chance of doing it. You've got more chance of pulling it off, because it feels like now they've gone for, if you miss your shot, you're going to get punished. And I see it. I'm not saying I don't, because I do see it. But I think they've gone too far towards that. And it's like they've gone for some sort of super serious, boring way of going about it that no one's enjoying it. And for me, I know everyone's got their own way of playing and their own preferences, but for me, it's all about getting stuck into a situation where you probably shouldn't even have any chance in. It's going into like a 1v3 Nasher battle and coming out on top. It's practically impossible now, because there's so many things there to stop your gun firing when you need it to fire. And if your gun won't fire in a shooting game when you want it to fire, then you're just going to go and play something else. So yeah, it's minuscule, but I'd love to see the rate of fire of the Gnasher increase for that reason. So this next one, this is also one that I would actually much rather not see happen, but it's based on how much complaints I see from people. It's weird that most of the people who complain about these things are the ones who camp. I think that speaks volumes, but let's get into it anyway. I've suggested increase bloom when performing up A to reduce reaction shot effectiveness, as in wrap shot. Now, I said earlier in the video, I don't want to see things like the reaction shots go, because I think that reaction shots, they allow you to come at a fight from practically any angle, and it adds so much variety to every Gnasher battle. Pretty much every Gnasher battle used to feel different in the past, but now everything is just the same. Now that the regular reaction shot's pretty much annihilated, all that's left is the inverted reaction shot, or it's now known as the wrap shot. That happens because that's all that's left, and now people are complaining about it. Yeah, I don't want to see it changed, but I think if it is going to be adjusted, then add a bit of bloom to it so that you might not land the full spread every time you go round unless you're pinpoint accurate. Please don't change it. Please don't break the reaction shots anymore. But if you're going to look some sort of resolution to all these ridiculous complaints you're getting about it, then I think slight bit of bloom's the answer. Please don't start breaking things anymore because it's already crap, but yeah, don't break it. Next one is increase bloom when sliding. Now, in the past, I did say I didn't want that at all. I did say if I was able to be precise while sliding, that I should be rewarded for that. I still, it's a weird thing to say, but I still agree with myself. I do think that you should be rewarded for being accurate. And I think that makes sense in terms of satisfaction, being rewarded, being good at the game. I stick by it. However, I do see that it's quite easy to land your shots on gears now, especially as we've got the slower speed. It is a bit easy given that we've got high sensitivity as well, and perhaps as much as I'd like to have the reward for being precise, I could see why it's potentially a bit problematic. So, in conjunction with removing shot delay, I'd like to see the ability to shoot while sliding again, but potentially add a little bit, don't go mental, just a little bit of bloom when you're sliding so that there is that little bit of a punishment for moving quickly, because other games do that. You can't be precise when you're moving quickly on other games, so I can understand why it could be logical to add it. As I say, I'd rather it wasn't there, but I can fully understand the implementation of it if that was a reason. If it replaced shot delay, I would happily take a little bit of bloom on my shot when sliding if it replaced shot delay. That would be 100% fine by me. If I'm honest, I did fully intend to talk about all the points for movement and tuning and then map style and cover. Everything I've just talked about now was all of the movement and tuning points. I've covered all those in a bit more detail, and it's quite far into the video, and I feel like I can talk to that much better because I feel like I understand that a lot more. Like map creation, that's not really something I understand in huge detail. It's more personal preferences at that point. There's a few points I made in there in terms of where you take a cover and how you take cover, how your character sort of looks out of cover, all that sort of stuff. And I suppose you could potentially tie that in with movement, but the main points I made in that was wow, my voice. And the main points I made in that was when a pawn takes cover, prioritize camera looking outwards, not inwards, and also prioritize taking cover on the edge of cover, not the middle of cover. Now, I will mention those because I kind of want to show what I mean. I feel like it's a key contributor to why you feel like you get stuck to walls all the time. Now, I've got a quick clip here which I'll show and then I'll come back to it. Now, or you take cover in the very center, and that getting stuck in the center, it either feels like you're sticking to the walls, or it just forces you into mantles that you just weren't trying to do whatsoever, and the controller inputs that you were doing match that. You shouldn't mantle, but Gears 5 forces you to do it. I don't understand that. So again, I was recording on Gears 5 when this happened, so I went back to Gears 4 to test, and I'll just put both the clips now. You'll see Gears 5 was the unexpected mantle. Gears 4, I slid to the very end, took cover on the end where you'd expect to, and I was able to up A around that cover. I don't understand why Gears 5 feels different. So you asked if I'd be okay with a toggle option. Yeah, that doesn't bother me. I'd always have it set to the way I'd prefer it. Because personally, from my perspective at least, not changing it puts you at a disadvantage. Because I'm not going to pretend I've done extensive testing on old Gears games of this one thing, because I haven't. But I feel like on older Gears games, you can traverse the map much more fluently than you can on Gears 5. I feel like on older Gears, you could take cover. Other than Gears 1, think like that. Gears 1, you used to take cover in the middle, I'm pretty sure. I could be imagining that. Anyway, I feel like Gears 5, you take cover in the centre way more than you do on older Gears games. And I feel like that adds to the feeling of getting stuck to cover so much. Because when I say up A, I don't mean in the general sense of up A to shoot somebody. I mean up A as a form of literal movement to take cover, catch the corner, up A to carry on roadie running. That's what I mean by this. I feel like on all the Gears games, you could up A around a cover and carry on much more fluently. Where on Gears 5, you take cover, you're sort of in the middle slightly. You have to stop what you're doing, shift along, and then you're in a position where you can up A and continue. I feel like that does two things. One, it makes you feel like you're getting stuck to walls a lot more because you're in a bit of cover that you'd rather not be in. And two, I feel like it adds to accidental mantles a lot more because you instinctively feel like you should be on the end of cover, so you're trying to up A it. So you're holding up and pressing A, but you're not. You're taking cover on the middle of the cover, so your up A makes your mantle instead, and it's just nothing but irritating. So I'd like to see those two changes. And yes, to answer, I'd be fine with a toggle, but I can't see why anyone wouldn't want to. But of course, that's why it's a toggle, like you'd pick your preference, and I don't think that'd impact the game too much if one person had it enabled versus one person who didn't have it enabled, because the option's there for people to do whatever they want. There were a few more points that I made in the tweet, but I feel like I've covered the main topics, and I hope I've covered them in detail enough for you to understand them. As I say, this video is not feedback. I'd honestly rather they just completely ignore me in general, to be honest, and it'd just be funny to watch. I know that what I'm saying is right. As much as you don't like me, as much as, when I say you, I mean like people in general. I know people don't like me. That's fine, but you don't have to like me for me to be right, and I know that bothers you. And I said so long ago that these changes would be massively negative, and you want to laugh at me, call me all sorts, like give me so much crap. Well, I told you so, didn't I? You're enjoying your game with nobody on it that anyone finds boring. Well done. Have fun. And yeah, this was just my little bit of discussion in a place where I get a lot more interaction now than I used to before I got an unfair ban. So I appreciate the fact that you've expanded my audience for me by pushing me towards somewhere else. Thank you very much. Oh, and uh, I feel like an outro is needed.
Bye, have a great time.